You walk around all day carrying a version of yourself you've never once fact-checked. A flattering little file with your name on it. You're the disciplined one, the misunderstood one, the one who'd be killing it already if life had just dealt a fairer hand. By the end of this, that file is going to look very different. Here's the strange part. You'd never trust a stranger who described themselves the way you describe yourself in your own head. You'd want receipts, yet your entire identity runs on testimony from a witness who is paid to make you feel okay. You. Think about the last time you said, "I'm just not a morning person." You've repeated it so many times, it feels like biology. When did you actually test it? A real test would be 30 days of the same wake time, same light, same first hour. Most people have never run that experiment even once. They inherited the verdict and stopped collecting evidence. This is the quiet machinery underneath almost everything you believe about who you are. You're not lying to yourself on purpose. You're just running on stories that were convenient at the moment you adopted them, and that nobody, including you, ever circled back to audit. Psychologists have a clean name for one slice of this: the self-serving bias. When things go well, you point inward, your talent, your grind, your taste. When things go badly, you point outward. The timing, the algorithm, the client who didn't get it. Same person, two different accounting systems, switched automatically depending on which one protects the story. You do it so fast, you never see the switch. And it gets more uncomfortable. There's a well-documented gap between how skilled people think they are and how skilled they actually are. And the gap is widest exactly where you'd least want it to be, in the areas you're worst at. The very thing that makes you bad at something also makes you bad at noticing you're bad at it. So the parts of your self-image you feel most confident about deserve the most suspicion. So where do you even start checking? You start with the claims you defend the hardest. Notice which sentences about yourself come out instantly. With heat. I always finish what I start. I'm a loyal person. I work better under pressure. The speed and the heat are the tell. A belief you've actually examined comes out calm, with edges, with exceptions. A belief you've never examined comes out armored, because somewhere you suspect it wouldn't survive a real look. Take, I work better under pressure. Almost everyone who says this means something gentler. I only work under pressure. The deadline is the one force strong enough to drag them to the desk. That's worth knowing about yourself. But it's a story about a broken starting mechanism dressed up as a superpower. Reframe it honestly, and suddenly the fix is obvious. Build the pressure earlier, on purpose, before the panic does it for you. This is where it stops being a thought experiment and starts being leverage. Every untested story about yourself is a door you've nailed shut without checking what's behind it. Picture someone who decided at 19 that they're bad with money. It explained the empty account, so it felt true, so it stuck. For 10 years, they never opened a spreadsheet, because why study a subject you've already failed? The belief didn't describe reality. It built reality, one avoided decision at a time. The day they actually tracked a single month of spending, the identity cracked. They weren't bad with money. They'd been bad at looking, at giving themselves 10 quiet minutes to see what was actually there. Looking is a skill you can pick up in an afternoon, even with something as simple as ponder, one stoic reflection prompt a day, link in the description. And once you start, the data tends to do the arguing for you. You're carrying doors like that right now. I'm not technical. I'm not creative. I'm not the kind of person who can build an audience, run their own thing, stick to training. Each one feels like a fact about your nature. Each one is really a prediction you stopped testing years ago. And predictions left untested have a way of coming true. So let's talk about the audit itself, because this only matters if you actually do it. The first move is to separate behavior from identity. I am lazy is an identity claim. and identity claims feel permanent. I scrolled for 2 hours this morning is a behavior, and behavior has causes you can change. The lazy story explains everything and fixes nothing. The behavior is something you can put on a calendar and attack. Watch how often your mind upgrades a single behavior into a life sentence about your character. That upgrade is where you lose your power. The second move is to hunt for the counter evidence you've been filtering out. Your mind is an extremely good lawyer for whatever you already believe. Tell it you're undisciplined, and it will hand you a highlight reel of every quit. But discipline isn't one global switch. You probably show ferocious discipline somewhere already. The gym, your craft, a game you've gone deep on, a person you never let down. That discipline is real, and it's yours, and it's evidence that the trait already lives in you. The actual question is narrower and far more useful. Why does it switch on there and stall everywhere else? There's a third move, and it's the one people skip because it stings. Go ask. The stories you tell about yourself were partly written by people who only ever saw your edited version. So pick 2 or 3 you actually trust and ask them a precise question. Where do you think I get in my own way? Then shut up and take notes. The first answer will be polite. The second one, if you sit in the silence long enough, will be the real one. It usually names a pattern you've been protecting for a decade. It'll sting because some buried part of you already knew and filed it under "they don't understand me." They might understand you better than your own press release does. You don't have to believe everything they say. You just have to let it count as evidence, the way you'd let a contrary number count when you're checking your own work. One outside data point is worth 100 replays of the story in your head, because the replay is narrated by the same biased witness every single time. Now, the honest objection. Maybe you're thinking that some of these limits are real, that not every wall is made of bad stories. And you're right. Some are concrete. Money, health, where you were born, who depends on you, time you genuinely don't have. Pretending mindset dissolves all of that is its own comforting lie. And a worse one because it ends in self-blame when the wall refuses to move. So draw the line clearly. There are constraints, and there are stories about constraints, and they live in the same sentence, wearing the same clothes. I can't start a business. I have no capital. Blends a fact with a fantasy. The fact you have limited money. The fantasy that every version of starting requires the money you don't have. The constraint is worth respecting. The story stapled to it is what keeps you frozen. Get surgical about which is which, because you can route around a constraint while a story you refuse to question stays invisible. That separation is the whole game. Honesty about the wall, suspicion about the story you've wrapped around it. There's a cost here, and I won't pretend there isn't. Checking your own stories means losing the comfortable ones. The story where you're already special. The story where it's everyone else's fault. The story where the timing was just unlucky. Again, those stories feel like protection. They're actually a cage with very soft walls. And soft walls are the hardest kind to notice you're leaning on. The people who build genuinely independent lives, the ones who own their time and their work and their direction, rarely have higher self-esteem than you. They have something rarer. They have an accurate picture. They know precisely where they're strong, precisely where they're weak, and they make moves that fit the real terrain instead of the flattering map. Accuracy beats confidence every single time, because confidence aimed at the wrong target just gets you to the wrong place faster, and accuracy has a feeling to it once you taste it. It's lighter. The flattering story is exhausting to maintain because some part of you is always bracing against the evidence. Drop the story and you stop guarding it. You get to be wrong about yourself in the small, cheap way now, in your notes app, in a quiet month of paying attention. The alternative is being wrong in the expensive way later. Waking up at 40 inside a life built entirely on claims you never bothered to check. So here's the work, and it's small enough that you have no excuse to skip it. Tonight, write down 3 things you know about yourself, the flattering ones and the limiting ones both. Then, beside each, answer one question with brutal plainness. What's the last concrete piece of evidence I actually have for this? Not a feeling, not a memory from years ago. Recent, specific, real. Half of them will have nothing behind them. Those are the doors. Those are where your next year is hiding. Then pick one. Just one. The belief that's been quietly costing you the most. And design a 30-day test that could prove it wrong. If you're not a morning person, run the real experiment. Controlled, the full version you abandoned at day 3 last time. If you're bad at finishing, ship one tiny thing, ugly and complete, and watch the story flinch. You are allowed to be a different person than the one you've been describing. That permission has been sitting there the whole time, unused, because you mistook a story for a fact and a fact for a fence. The version of you that you defend is a rough draft someone scared wrote a long time ago and never came back to revise. You get to be the editor now. Pick up the file with your name on it, read it like you don't already trust the author, and cross out every line that can't show you its proof. Underneath all that crossing out is the person who is actually going to build something, waiting for you to stop quoting the draft and start checking the facts.